Right?
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Energy Realities podcast. Today we've got Stu Turley and David Blackman from Texas, and Daylight Savings says hit America. And and I'm Tammy Nemeth with the Nemeth Report, and I'm here in Oxford outside today, and thankfully the rain has stopped, so that's all good. And we're hoping Irina will join us. We don't know if she got the message about the time change, so we're
Their
hopeful
Well,
that
stupid,
that she
ridiculous,
will join
cultish
us.
ritual in the United States.
No, they do it here too, but ours doesn't happen till the end of March. Like, why can't they coordinate and have this? Of the things they ought to standardize, that's one of them,
That would
right?
make entirely too much sense for our policymakers.
well, I think that goes with your theme today, Tammy. Political extremism. We can't even get along with uh, time change.
Right. And so it's interesting that today we're going to be talking about political extremism and what that means for the energy realities in our world today. So we've got some interesting stories lined up on the headlines, and yeah. So do we want to go into the headlines right away, guys, or do
Let's
we want
do
to
it.
chat about some of the other stuff?
Oh,
Okay.
headlines are great.
Hey, yeah, let's
Okay.
start on these. This one, David wrote on his energy absurdity because this really ties in, Tammy. I got a tickle when he put this out on his Substack.
Yeah, well, it came from you, Stu, so you should have been tickled. I steal from all of y'all from time to time. This one is it's like the scientists who want to put up the big shield in outer space that's 1,000 miles wide and to block the sun. What could possibly go wrong? Now we have scientists who want $50 billion from the signatory countries to the Antarctica Treaty, which was signed by Dwight Eisenhower in 1959 and everyone's since forgotten about. But they petitioned the signatories to that treaty for $50 billion to build a curtain around a big glacier in Antarctica that they're afraid is going to break off. It's the size of Connecticut, and they're afraid it's going to break off and flood the world. And so their
Ugh.
idea is they want to build a big underwater curtain around the thing that's about 60 miles wide that would block warm water from, from going underneath this glacier and prevent the glacier from melting and breaking off and flooding the world. Somehow, I don't think that's going to work out because of all the volcanic underwater activity that's happening on the western side of Antarctica. And probably the curtain won't do much to stop that. So I'm afraid this $50 billion is unlikely to get spent, although you never know with the lunatics we have running our governments these days.
They'll probably get a portion of it to do proof of concept. So a lot of the things that happens with net zero and the so-called transition is the subsidy and grant farming, right? So
Right.
they throw out these crazy ideas and say, yeah, I think we can do that. Can we have some money to try? And then they do proof of concept, like the whole geoengineering and the solar energy in space-based
Yeah.
solar, which is
Yeah.
ridiculous. And so this is not. And I was going to say, David, what about those volcanoes? Are they going to like put a cork in it or something? I mean,
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's just so ridiculous. The whole thing is just crazy. And, I mean, even if you could do that, how could you possibly anticipate all the unintended consequences that might happen as a result, right? What could possibly
right?
go wrong with
Yeah,
with putting a big umbrella in outer space or this curtain around this glacier in Antarctica? These people don't have a clue.
yeah,
And
for
and there's
sure.
just no telling what kind of ancillary impacts would happen if they were to try to do it. So it's just another one of these nutty things that pops up pretty much on a daily basis related to the energy transition.
Well, that's why you've always got such great subjects and stories for the absurdities because they seem to never stop. So,
They never stop. They just continue to multiply. Actually, it's like a
yeah.
like a geometric progression or something.
In, and Tammy, on this one, then this is the only other one when I'm sitting here looking at it this morning across my news desk. Climate Change Committee's net zero plan involves pumping compressed CO2 with 500 Hiroshima bombs in the ground every year. You can't buy this kind of entertainment. I'm serious. This is just like David's story from the standpoint that in the high priced things that are going on are um, just a total wealth transfer. And in the one we had this past year, there was a wind farm on the Great Lakes that they had $52 million to install 5 wind turbines. None of them got done, and they had to turn around and give 35 million back. Well, how many millions did they get to keep just for permitting? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start a net zero plan like this. I'm going to start putting in 500 Hiroshima bombs into the ground, and I'm going to go get me some $50 billion so that I can permit and then only get $1 billion. I'm okay with $1 billion. What do you guys think?
Well,
Well,
with the carbon capture, I'm of two minds about it, because on the one hand, they've been experimenting with this for some time in Saskatchewan, where they've had the International Carbon Capture Knowledge Center that's been testing it, monitoring it, and it's actually quite effective. It doesn't move and whatever. But I think the issue here is the scale that they want to do. So, carbon capture, I believe, does have its uses, especially with enhanced oil recovery, which of course the environmentalists don't want to have happen.
right.
And I think that the storage does work in certain formations, and there's been a lot of research done in the UK for where they want to do it, and they've learned a lot from the Saskatchewan example. But again, it becomes a matter of scale and the magnitude that they want to do. And I don't know if they have enough knowledge on what happens at that scale, right? So, okay, maybe if it works, all right. What happens afterwards if there's a seismic event or something? I don't know. But there's
So,
been some good research done in Saskatchewan.
so the
Outstanding point.
reading this headline, Stu, reminded me. Have you ever heard of Operation Gas Buddy? Operation Gas Buddy was, hey, hello, Arena.
Hey,
Good to see
Rena,
you.
hi.
Sorry about the time change. Operation Gas Buddy was a project that was mounted by El Paso Natural Gas Company back in the 1960s, late 1960s. A bunch of engineers, and I actually knew one of them years ago who worked on this project. They decided it'd be a great job to get a small yield nuclear bomb and put it down into the Basin Dakota Formation in northwest New Mexico as a means of doing a high powered frack job to loosen up the gas and produce the gas out of the Basin
Yeah,
Dakota Formation. Literally,
yeah.
they did this. They actually did this not once but twice, and turned the formation into glass in New Mexico, and then later in Colorado. Researchers, some engineers, some other engineers with another company decided, well, they knew how to do it better, and they tried it on a formation up in Colorado and turned the formation to glass again. This is the kind of, so bad ideas, putting bad money after bad ideas, as one of our readers commented, is not a new thing related to energy. It's just being done for a different purpose now.
Well, they wanted to do that in the oil sands back in the 50s as well. It was like they were
Yeah.
trying to find these peaceful uses for nuclear. And they said, wow, if we could liquefy and get rid of all that sand in the oil sands, we could pump it out like Saudi Arabia. It'd be great.
Yeah.
And
Be awesome.
fortunately, they never did it, because I don't know what the outcome would have been. It probably not good.
Probably not.
So, hi, Arena. Glad to
Hello.
see you.
No, sorry. I completely forgot about your time change.
Yes, well, we did too.
Yeah,
How's
I only remembered because my son has classes, and I said to him, "Don't forget, you've got your classes are an hour early." And then I'm out in Oxford, and I realized, oh my gosh, that applies to me too. So here we are.
All right. I'm gonna and let's see. David, is this since Irina's here, she had two wonderful stories here.
Yes.
Yeah, they are wonderful, especially the first one. No, I like them both, but the EU never fails to, surprise. Even though it's getting increasingly unsurprising, everything they try to do to stifle the oil industry, and now they want them to pay for poorer nations' transition, or rather, poorer nations' problems with climate change. We never get the specifics. They just say droughts, floods, warming oceans. That's it. I don't remember any island that was predicted to sink because of rising ocean levels. Sink, actually. Have you heard about any island sinking yet?
Atlantis.
Yeah, besides Atlantis.
Well, we had a congressman about 10 years ago express his concern that Guam was going to tip over in the middle of the ocean, but that was a
I
different.
remember something about the Seychelles or the Maldives. They were going to be underwater.
Is it the Maldives? There's one of the island nations that's always making a stink about it and goes to the cops and says, "Give us money." So I don't know which one that is.
To them. Of course, they're going to use it.
Yeah.
But I love this because the money is not going to be enough. Government money, public money is not going to be enough because the bill. Imagine that. Shockingly, the bill is going to be much higher than previously expected. They started lower. Second before last estimate puts the necessary money at $100 billion annually. And now it could be up to $1 trillion annually. I don't know how these estimates are being made, but clearly no government has this kind of money. So who should we get it from? Well, the oil industry, of course, because it's all their fault anyway. But I'm sure the oil industry jump at the opportunity to, part with some billions to help poor nations.
And then the EU will complain that the companies aren't spending enough on the transition. Right?
And every time the price of gas goes up, they want you to produce more oil, right?
Yeah, and then they'll have a windfall or something.
Yeah, they'll never be happy. That's for sure. Make polluters pay. Yeah.
Well, yesterday Saudi Aramco put out, I believe, that they had a 25% decrease in profits, and they only made $112 billion in profits last year.
They announced a $98 billion dividend to their shareholders.
Right. Yeah.
Think about that.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
poor guys.
Poor
guys.
But I'm sitting here counting the trillions and going, you got one oil company that made that much. There ain't enough money.
Right.
But Irina, in that article, I can't recall, did they say which companies they wanted to pay? Is it just the Western companies? Does it include CNOOC? Does it include Saudi Aramco? Like who?
They never go into specifics, as we all know. They were just considering finding new and innovative ways of funding the transition, new and innovative sources of financing, including from the fossil fuel industry. That's very innovative, definitely.
Of course. Yeah.
So
they want to kill they want to kill the industry, but they want to suck the money out before it's completely dead.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Like a spider and a fly.
Another grand plan.
Or my first wife.
Stu,
come on.
That was a joke.
Go there.
It's Monday morning. My hair was on fire. Sorry. What's your next one there, Irina?
The next one is even funnier, saying that next generation EVs will be cheaper to produce than gas cars by 2027, thanks to manufacturing improvements.
Wow.
What the ones in China?
I don't know. But I got a glimpse in passing about some giga thing that Tesla is doing that has to do with manufacturing. I didn't read the whole story because I didn't have time. And we're an hour early, so I didn't have time to read it. But yeah, apparently there is going to be some major manufacturing breakthrough that will lower costs. Now, I always
Okay.
thought, based on what I've been reading about EVs, that it's not the manufacturing process that is, the main contributor to the high cost of electric cars. It's things like batteries, components, and
Yeah.
you can't really innovate there and make any major breakthroughs. I mean, we hear about battery breakthroughs on a weekly basis, but how many of these breakthroughs have gone to market? None.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we're getting manufacturing improvements that will make EVs cheaper in 3 short years.
Yeah, it's always
Right.
just around the corner.
Yeah, just around the
Don't
corner.
give up.
It's going to
Spend
be
more money.
major.
Invest more. It's
You know,
just around the corner.
I really got tickled on our other ones when the remote control cars were taking control and people were, getting in their car and just having some serious problems. Irina, before you got here in the green room, we found a video of a remote control car that was taken over in Bulgaria, and we were hopeful this was not you. So we're going to
No,
play
my
this
car
for
has
you.
very few electronics on it. That's not funny.
Actually, it's
Daniel.
kind of funny. It's really kind of funny.
And so when you were and before you got here again, Tammy was saying, well, there's a lot of problems coming around the corner for political extremism. And as the money wealth transfer gets worse, I came up with this plan. And I think this is what we're going to see in the future for all politicians.
This little
Sorry, that is a true world effect of what a bad policy will do for you. It's a rose, you're going to smell it, and then it's going to turn into something that's going to sting you. Sorry.
To me, that sounds like the reality of nature and how energy actually allows us to resist that terribleness that nature tends to do, that can go a little, nature can go crazy. And the one thing I agree with Alex Epstein, what helps us protect us from nature is hydrocarbons
Of course.
and having reliable,
Exactly.
affordable energy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Protects us from nature. I like that. That is pretty.
Yeah, well, from the extremes of nature. I mean, there are people
Yeah.
who choose to leave civilization and live remotely in nature.
Good for them. Good.
Good for
That's
them.
their own choice.
Absolutely.
They're free to do
Yeah.
it. But it doesn't mean we all must be forced into a similar lifestyle, at the mercy
Exactly.
of nature.
Yeah, my
Yeah,
great
well
great
said.
grandparents got to experience South Texas without fossil fuels, without air conditioning, without running water, without electricity, and that was why they ended up starting to use fossil fuels to protect them from South Texas during the heat of the summer and the cold of the winter, and and nothing has really changed in that regard. That's why we use these things and why we continue to need them.
My dad grew up in a sod house in the prairies in
Yeah.
Saskatchewan.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if he could see what the world is going to now, I think he's probably turning over in his grave. Be like, what the heck are you guys doing? Why do you want to go back to this?
It's pretty sad. My dad was 16 when his family got indoor plumbing. We're not that far away. Fossil
just
fuels.
2 generations away from that.
And my
Yeah.
granddad came into Oklahoma in a covered wagon. So we're not that far back, and we're about to head that way again.
Right.
Yes, it seems that these activist generations right now, they take so much for granted, and they completely forget that their ancestors not too far removed didn't have running water, didn't
Right.
have electricity. My father was born in 1928, and he lived in a village. And as soon as he was born at home, he was moved to the cowshed for warmth because he was born in January.
Yeah.
Wow.
God.
And
Well,
that
they
was
give off
that
heat.
was about 100 years ago. not so long ago, if you think about it.
So he wasn't poisoned by the methane?
Apparently not. No.
Apparently.
Apparently methane's a bad thing now. I don't know.
Yeah.
Tammy, that was great. I am not worthy to hang with you. That was absolutely outstanding. I'll tell you what,
Okay,
guys.
so what's our next set of headlines? Is that yours, Stu?
Let's see here. We got some comments here. The greenwashing extortion racket says drill baby drill from ever more tax subsidies.
Yeah.
Somebody got to pay for the subsidies. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Good morning, Robert. How are you? Hi, everyone. I'm not sure what. Okay. Let's see here. I think I only had these two. When we're sitting here talking about the next stage of political extremism, I'm almost afraid to give my full opinion. And I think that we are going to see even more extreme political measures as the World Economic Forum is realizing that, things are not going their way. In the United States, everybody's realizing that Donald Trump may actually win again, that it's going to get even more extreme. So we're in the next 6 months of extremism coming around the corner. And I noticed some political things in Bulgaria. What's going on over in the EU right now? I saw a couple articles. I didn't really understand them.
What about?
Makes two of us. I just saw political extremism in Bulgaria, and I was like, well, okay.
Political extremism in Bulgaria? No, we have a very pro-Western, very liberal government.
Wow.
But they're afraid that the far-right populists are going to come into power if there are elections anytime soon.
So
that was Portugal, wasn't it? There was
Portugal just had the
Portugal.
right-wing party win the elections by a very narrow margin, and they probably won't be able to
form a government
without the far-right party.
Right.
But so funny how that keeps happening in country after country, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, with this for next week, we do appreciate everybody. And Tammy, you are frozen. You're out in, where are you now?
I'm in Oxford. It's not that cold. I mean, it's 10 or 12 degrees. It just looks cold. It looks gray. Yeah,
she's
there's lots of
talking
people
about
around.
Celsius. So that is what, about 50
Celsius,
Fahrenheit?
Sorry.
About
50,
something like that.
I'm sorry. My nose hairs were cold just listening to this conversation. So, and Irene, how's Bulgaria?
Yeah, exactly. It's not that.
No,
well, it's warmer than the UK as usual. Sorry, as unusual.
Oh yeah,
everything
extreme
is
weather
and unusual. Yeah, it's quite balmy today, thankfully.
Well, that's fantastic. That's all right. Well, I'll tell you what, next week we're going to have a great guest and we're going to have a lot of fun. So everybody buckle up and have an absolute fantastic week. This is going to be great. I got my morning fix with Irina, Tammy, and David.
Well, okay. Y'all have a great week.
But wait, Stu, we didn't get to mine. We didn't get to mine.
We didn't get to Tammy's.
Headlines.
Don't leave yet, everybody. Those are mine.
Don't leave yet.
Don't leave. Okay.
Where are Tammy's?
You didn't on there.
Tammy's.
Okay, what are Tammy's? I'm sorry, my bad.
Okay. So last week, Ottawa City Hall, that's the capital of Canada, they had a group of activists lobby the government to ban fossil fuel advertising in city areas that are, like at skating rinks and stuff like that. And it's not just companies, it's anybody who supports oil and gas. Right. And so there's a group called Canada Action, and they were saying, LNG is great. It'll help China get off coal and so on. And so these activists got really angry, and they went up to the city hall, and they tried to watch their testimony, and it was so full of emotion and just crazy stuff. And the council voted to put it to the bureaucracy to assess the the legalities. So it looks like the city might do it. And so then I was doing a little more research, and it turns out that France banned fossil fuel advertising in 2022, and Amsterdam banned fossil fuel advertising and aviation advertising, which is bizarre given KLM, like what the heck? And so now, in order to give support to this ridiculous private members bill in the House of Commons, the activists are going to city councils and town councils around Canada, trying to get them to ban it locally to give fuel for this federal legislation. And their testimony, whatever, is all based on, we don't like it, it's a health issue, and they just make up stuff and pretend like they're supporting evidence, and it's just garbage. And yeah, so that's part of the extremism going on in Canada, where they want to stop you from talking positive things about hydrocarbons.
But that's really silly, because down here we still have cigarette advertising. Only they are not allowed to show the actual product, and the advertisement, the billboard or whatever, has to have a warning label at the bottom that smoking kills, etc. Why don't they do something similar with oil and gas advertising? Warning, hydrocarbons kill. This will be big idiocy. I love it if somebody.
Well, that's what they want to do. I mean, that's what that member of Parliament from the NDP wanted to do. We wrote about him about 3 weeks ago. He had a bill that would make it criminal. There would be criminal penalties for saying good things about oil and gas or coal.
So I mean, it's interesting because the left has been pushing back and saying that's not what the bill says. It's like, read the damn bill. That's exactly what it says. That if you say anything positive about it, it's criminal. And they're trying to say, oh, well, that just applies to companies. And then in the same article, they're saying, oh, but it would also apply to this advocacy group. Well, then it's not just companies. Who are you defining as an advocate? I guess I'd be an advocate because I believe that right now this is the best thing that we've got. And, until an alternative comes along, which we don't have. So yeah, I'd be like fined $100,000 or whatever ridiculous thing it is. So.
Wow. And they will still continue using petrochemicals.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah. Yeah. So Robert Domenico is saying that he witnessed activists disrupting a Heritage Foundation event a week or so ago. They also disrupted a Bank of America meeting, I think it was. And they also disrupted the International Sustainability Standards Board sustainability meeting about 2 or 3 weeks ago, saying they're not going fast enough. I know. They're not going fast enough.
Right. Yeah.
Right? So that's part of the extremism.
It's all funded by the same foundations and billionaires who funded the Occupy movement 15 years ago, and Antifa starting in 2017, and BLM starting in 2020. It's all the same funders for all these. And now you've got the pro-Hamas protesters disrupting Biden campaign events, all funded by the same billionaires and their foundations.
That's exactly what why I would really, in a fantastical world, I would like to see every single oil company in the world saying, okay, we won't pump.
Yeah.
They only need to do it for 24 hours. I think that would be enough.
Yeah.
And that would get them all prosecuted by the Biden Justice Department for antitrust.
Why?
And nationalized.
And nationalized, yeah, probably.
And nationalized. Yeah. But, I was thinking about the idea of treason. And, if it were foreign entities that were going in Canada or the United States or whatever, saying, we need to stop using oil and gas, and, which is a national security issue. If it were foreign entities doing so, that would be considered treasonous. So if they're not, just because they're domestic, is that not still kind of treasonous? I don't know.
It's a good question. I don't know the answer.
Yeah, I don't know about the legalities.
I've kind of lost the definition of treason in the U.S. I believe there's so much treasonous activity going on that there's a firing squad would not be enough. Personal opinion.
I don't know. I don't know.
So, um, that's
Well, it's
pretty
obviously
cool.
not it's not treasonous in the United States to turn over our entire energy security to China, which is what we're doing,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's not just here, it's in Europe as well. The whole Western world is in the process of surrendering its energy security to China and Chinese interests. I mean, that's the net result of the entire movement right now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're
And
wrong,
I defy
David.
anyone
Europe is
to
getting
prove me
energy
wrong.
from the US, not from China.
Right, right.
It's called diversification.
Right. Right.
Robert,
Yeah.
thanks for spelling correctly. I appreciate that.
Can we read that one out? I don't know. I might get in trouble.
A
Yeah.
$ holes. Yeah, I like that.
So I had sent an article around to you guys about, I think it came out yesterday, where they were talking about what happened with the cobalt mine in America and how this Australian mining company had invested $150 million to do this cobalt mine. They were all ready to go and whatnot. And then China opened up a couple more mines in Congo, flooded the market, and the prices went from $70,000 a ton to $4,000 or $3,000 a ton, and now the American mine can't make money, and they're not going to
That's
mine.
yeah, and I'm sure
So
you've all read about the rare earth minerals mine up in Wyoming, the
yeah,
discovery up there in Wyoming. Well, that's exactly what you will see China do exactly the same thing if that
China's doing
starts to progress.
what it wants to do. I mean, you
Yes,
can't, it's not just China, you can't compete with the developing world on mining.
right.
It's the
yeah,
same with, what was it? Nickel. Yeah, last week
yeah,
I wrote about
nickel.
nickel and Indonesia. The
Yeah.
Chinese are building refineries there and exploiting their mines, but they're just doing what's best for China.
Right.
I mean, nobody's stopping the US or Australia from doing the same. They're just not doing it.
Well, I think the difference, though, is that when you have a state company or state companies that are backed by the state, they're willing to take those losses in order to ensure control of the market.
Right.
And Western nations aren't prepared to do that. Number one, they're broke. And number two, they're not going to do that, right? Because the Inflation Reduction Act was supposed to kind of do something like that, but it's so scattered. And really, you're competing with a communist nation that's used to doing this.
Right.
So how
Exactly. And
precisely
you're not competing on equal terms because
equal
you're
to
too
exactly,
stupid. You're too
exactly.
stupid to do it. You know, I very much dislike the notion of the external enemy when it's the idiots inside
That's
that are
right.
making it possible for this external enemy to win over them.
That's right. Yeah,
That's
our big
exactly right.
problem is
Yeah,
internal. Our enemies are within.
It's always internal,
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
yeah. So, and then I think my other article was about what Stu had mentioned about these EVs that are going rogue. And there's a particular Jaguar EV SUV that just starts
Yeah,
accelerating. And dude was like, he had his kids in the back of the car. He's slamming on the brakes. It's not doing anything. And
Right.
so part of the problem isn't, I think, with EVs, although they tend to be, there's a lot of glitches maybe in the chips and whatnot, but that
right.
tends to be with a lot of potentially with modern vehicles. The electronics are so integrated that it can create problems.
I had a
Yeah, it was pretty funny.
1987 Ford Tempo that did that to me about 35 years ago, but that was a
Oh,
different
really?
problem. Yeah, that was a mechanical issue.
Well, I think
So
it's
did the
pretty.
accelerator get stuck?
Yeah, the accelerator got stuck and it would not slow down, man. It was bad. It was really bad.
But you know,
That's funny.
There's a difference between a accelerator fly by wire getting stuck and having a cyber attack from someone and taking your car and then driving it into the thing. There was a video not too long ago of a guy that he was a game show host, or not a game show host, a podcast host, and they kept driving his EV into the ditch. And
it's a big joke.
Yes, he almost got killed, and he's sitting there going, "You guys are gonna kill me!" Boom, into the ditch. So think about that. I'm kind of like in an old car. We were all teasing my cars. I got 175,000 miles on them. I kind of like them right now. They're just now getting broke in.
Yeah.
Oh, we got two of them here.
We got
Let's
some
hear.
comments here.
There you go, Ruben.
Exactly.
Oh, Ruben. We
You're the
love
man.
it from Ruben. That's a great comment.
Robert
Well,
Domenico
that-
said he
you're
wore
revolutionary. You're
"Let's Go
progressive.
Brandon" hat to the Philadelphia Clean Tech Northeast event. Did you get run out of that event?
Probably, yeah, probably by the Justice Department.
Thank you, Gail. I'm not sure which point, but thank you.
She always does. She always does.
We love Tammy.
Cargo fish.
I don't know who that is.
I don't know who that is.
It's ringing a bell.
Sounds
I'll look it
familiar.
up.
Okay.
Okay. We sure got some great comments today. Travis,
Can I make it?
I'm not sure.
Can
what
I make a
Travis
point?
is from.
We were talking about political extremism, and one point I wanted to make about the EU is that whenever it's a party that doesn't agree with whatever they're doing with the Green Deal or what's center left, they call far right, and they call
Yeah.
far right extremist. It's like, what, are you telling me there's only left wing? I mean, and I find it fascinating that Ursula von der Leyen is supposed to be a center right leader.
Yeah.
That baffles me.
God help us if we ever get a lefty in there, huh?
Oh my gosh. Well, that's what's happening in the UK. So the Labour government here has they're putting together, they're not a government yet. The government in waiting, they're putting together a task force for investment with Mark Carney, of course, on the task force, on how they can get private investment money to do all the green stuff they want to do, but can't afford.
Wow.
So that came in the Telegraph this morning, the Telegraph UK, and they're acting like a government in waiting. They're pretty confident they're going to win in the next election, and that's frightening, honestly. I might not be sitting here.
It'll be just like Justin Trudeau come to the UK, come over to London. And
then the Tories' energy policies will probably look like the normal compared to what Labour is going to do. If they could.
The Overton window will shift far to the left again.
Yeah, for sure. And the Tories are full in on the energy transition. They didn't do anything to stop the climate change committee and stuff. So
and that's why
people are feeling
killed.
like there's no alternative.
Yeah. I mean, if you're gonna rule like the Labor Party, you might as well just elect the Labor Party.
Vote for it. Yeah, exactly.
It's what Republicans in the United States never understand. If you're just going to rule like the Democrats, well, the voters are going to end up electing Democrats. You have to offer an alternative, or why would anybody care about you?
Sounds like the church.
Yes. Yeah, don't get me started on that.
Well, yeah, exactly. Here in England, oh my gosh. Yeah. Anyway, yeah.
Okay, Stu. I think we better wrap up before we start talking about religion.
Well, look at the time.
Well, climate religion.
We got to do a practice popal wave. Speaking of,
I'm a Presbyterian. I don't do that.
I don't either. All right. Well, hey, thank you for all the great comments. And Tammy, outstanding. You did great today, freezing your carcass off.
Today. Sort of. Yeah.
Well,
I need another coffee now.
And on behalf of the United States of America, I want to apologize to Tammy and Arena for daylight savings time. It's the stupidest thing we do in America, and that is saying a lot.
We do it in Europe too, David.
We do
Don't
it.
apologize.
We're just
stupid
behind.
too. We were going to stop doing it, but we haven't, because we have to coordinate on which time zone we will freeze our time at.
And if we
Yeah.
can't get along and have fun and then sit back and try to get along as countries over a time zone, Lord help us.
Amen.
Have a great day, guys. We'll see you
Thanks,
next week.
everybody. Bye.
See you next week. Bye-bye.
See you next week. Bye.
Bye.